Morning, fam. Happy Sunday. Yeah, let me just jump right in. So I am meditating today, right now, on Philippians 4 through 7, and I'm using my little tiny point pen to highlight while I'm thinking about it, which I'm still absolutely amazed by that trick that I discovered. I'm sure it's been discovered before, but anyways, so I'm just going to read it. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say, rejoice. Let your reasonableness, which also is gentleness, be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So I'm just going to kind of walk through what I was meditating on and coming to understand as I was reading this a minute ago. Rejoice, praise, be joyful, be thankful. Rejoicing is, you would think of, an active like celebration of praise and gratitude and happiness, right? That's what I think of when I think of rejoice. So it's not just rejoice. It's rejoice in the Lord. Let your gentleness, reasonableness didn't make much sense to me. Gentleness be known to everyone. So I'm not really a very gentle person, even when I'm like just ever, period. But what I think that can be interpreted for is, when we're angry, how do we respond? When somebody needs something from us, when there's an unbeliever who's acting like an unbeliever, what is our response? How do we treat people? How do we love people? Are we gentle spirited? Because I am definitely not gentle charactered. I am a loud, obnoxious, kind of rowdy, hyper person, but I have a gentle heart. And I think that we're supposed to let our gentle heart, the heart of Jesus within us, show to everyone. And it doesn't just say like to brothers and sisters in Christ. It doesn't just say to people in your circle, people that you know, people that you like, people who are gentle to you. It says everyone. And I think it's the most important to show that gentleness to the people who aren't in our circle, who aren't brothers and sisters in Christ, who we don't like and we haven't chosen to be in our circle, chosen to be in our life. I think our gentleness needs to show even more so to those that would see Jesus because they don't know us. The Lord is at hand. He's with us. He's with us. I was reading a study on this particular verse because the reasonableness threw me off. So, excuse me, I'm so tired. But I was doing a study, and the Lord is at hand. The Lord is near. It was interpreted a couple of different ways, that He's coming soon. And, even in the Old Testament, which was 2,000 years ago, they were telling each other that Jesus is coming back soon. So that's 2,000 years ago. So I guess we don't really understand soon the way that He does, but we can also understand that it's sooner than it was then for us. And it could also be interpreted as He's here right now, sitting right next to you, sitting right next to me, sitting right next to everyone. The Lord is here. He is near. He is at hand. He is within reach of all of us. Do not be anxious about anything. This is where I started really paying attention, because the anxiety that I have been experiencing lately has been through the roof. And I know all the reasons. I've spent enough time talking to God about this and thinking about this that I know exactly what it is, but that doesn't make it that much easier to tackle it. Like, just knowing what's causing me to be anxious doesn't eliminate the problem and doesn't automatically give me the ability to handle it better. So I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, I'm trying. I've been trying and I am getting better. But it says, but in everything by prayer and supplication. So we know what prayer is, or do we? Prayer is not just a talking to God, begging for things. It is talking to Him constantly. Communication, it's listening as much as it is talking. It's hanging out with Him. It's reading His Word. It's having conversations with other believers, especially mentors or mentees, to hear His voice in the way that He would choose to speak to us, not just by sitting down. Oh God, I need this. Supplication is, oh God, I need this. Supplication is the prayer where we come to God asking for things. That's where we come when we have needs that need to be met. That is the form of prayer that we use, is supplication, and thanksgiving. So prayer with supplication and with thanksgiving. So, and that's, that's important to me. First thing I always do when I pray is thank God for who he is. And there's many, 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 many other things that I would thank him for after that. But first and always, who he is, because that is the number one paramount thing, who he is. Without him and him being who he is, we have nothing else in the universe and nothing else in our lives or anywhere in between that is worthwhile, period. And then you let your requests be known to God through that. So, supplication would be when you sit there. Intercession, if it's for someone else, long time with God, just beseeching him, begging him, and taking authority against the things against, and listening and thanking him for the victory that he's already given, that he's already won over the situations that we may even feel trapped in, the situations that we're in all the time, thanking him for that and thanking him for who he is and everything in between those two things. And that's how we let our requests be made known to God. And we can talk to him throughout the day. Jesus, help me is one of my favorite things to say to him. And this is where I really, 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 really got hung up. In a good way. So, and the peace of God. So I sat here and I pondered for a while. What is peace? What is peace? And I was trying to, have you ever asked somebody what something was and they answered it with what it is? Like, peace is peace. Okay, that wasn't very helpful. So I had to really think about it for a minute, and the Lord helped me. Tranquility. Rest. It is, being able to rest. That's peace. I'm not good at resting. I'm not good at sitting still. That's peace. Tranquility, I think of just when it snows and everything's muffled. I think of a quiet, babbling creek. I think of a breeze when it's just the right temperature outside and you're outside and nobody's talking to you and it's just you and nature and tranquility, peace is, and the word easy. I don't mean like life being easy. I just mean like a lot of times for me it's hard to breathe. A lot of times for me, whatever I'm doing is forced. I'm forcing a smile, I'm forcing an interaction, I'm forcing an action, I'm tired so I'm forcing my way through the day anyways. Whatever it is, it's forced. The relationships for me have often been forced. It's just, my life has been forced a lot of the time. Not so much today, but so when he says easy to me, when I ask him what peace is, that means that being with him is easy. That means resting with him is easy. That means finding tranquility in his presence is easy. That means breathing is easy. That means thinking about something is easy. It means trusting him is easy. That's all peace. When I asked him what peace was, that's what he gave me. Maybe that's for someone else too. It was certainly for me. So let the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. I don't understand that because my brain doesn't operate like that. I pray that someday it will, and I'm sure through the sanctification process and the maturity process with God, eventually it will, but I've got a lot of undoing to do, so my brain doesn't currently operate in that, so I don't understand even the smallest bit of peace. My brain doesn't understand that, so that little piece was easy for me to comprehend. But it says, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. So guard your heart above all else, for from it flow all things. It's Proverbs, I want to say 4 something. I know it's Proverbs. And what that means is that everything else in our being and therefore from our life beyond that comes from our hearts. Our hearts is the beginning of everything. So the peace, it needs to start our hearts. It guards our hearts because our mind, our thoughts, which lead to behaviors, which lead to habits, which lead to lifestyles, which leads to, so on and so forth. It starts in our hearts. So his peace starts in our hearts. And if we don't, and this is where I got really, really mind blown. Ununderstandable. Don't think that's a word. Probably not, but it is for us right now. If we can't understand the ununderstandable peace And by understand, I mean we know with our hearts. Like there's knowing and there's knowing. There's intellectual knowing and there's a belief that's deep within our being that subconsciously everything comes from. That's understanding. That's knowing in our hearts. So if we can't understand that we don't actually know how his peace works, but we have it anyways. If we can't understand how to trust him and be tranquil in any situation deep within our core of our being, our hearts, before our mind, then it'll never get to our mind anyways, because the heart is where everything comes from. Our thoughts come from our hearts. So it guards our hearts first. It guards our hearts and our minds. And language is important, guys. The way that we talk is so important. We can't just throw words together and expect it to be, the Bible is written in such a way that it is very precise. Heart comes before mind for a reason. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds. Because it guards your heart, it will automatically, obviously guard your minds, because your thoughts come from your hearts. So, that being said, in Christ Jesus, none of this is possible without Jesus. I'm so bad at knowing addresses, but we are told somewhere in the Bible, in the New Testament, that we have the mind of Christ. Okay? So that being said, and knowing that his spirit lives within us, and that his spirit would have never come and lived within any of us if he hadn't first died to be the ultimate sacrifice for us, which gives us the opportunity and the ability to fellowship with his spirit every minute of our day, of our life. Because of that all the old law is abolished, and now we have access to him eternally, starting here and now, him within us, and then later on we're going to be face to face with him. I almost said I don't know which one's better, but I think we all know that it's going to be much better to see God. Yeah. Anyway, so all of this, starting back to rejoice in Christ Jesus. In Christ Jesus wraps up all of that. None of this is possible without Christ. None of this is even, it's null and void without Christ. None of this is anything we can do in our own strength. So I'm going to go back and read it again now that we have talked about it and broken it down, and let us all soak in it for a minute. So it's Philippians 4, verses 4 through 7. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Let your reasonableness, gentleness, be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. You guys have a wonderful Sunday. Love you all.